very pleased to introduce Dan Wilton, CEO and Director of First Mining Gold, here to talk to us today about an exciting project in Northwestern Ontario, the Springpole project, one of the largest undeveloped gold projects in Canada. So with that, Dan, I'm going to turn the floor over to you.
Graham, thank you very much. And thanks to the entire team that's putting on this very exciting Mining the Northwest show this week. I'm actually heading to the Northwest tomorrow. So we'll be boots on the ground in your neck of the woods coming up here shortly. But rest assured, we've been spending a lot of time in the Northwest over the course of the last 3 years. As we advance, not just our Springpole project, we've actually got interests in 4 significant gold projects in the Northwest. We'll talk about that as we kind of go through it. But, you know, it's an area that we've had unbelievable reception from and a great contribution, you know, and a great relationship with certainly all the regulators, service providers, and we're especially grateful for the opportunity to work in the traditional territories of our Indigenous communities around our project. So just want to say a thank you there. I'm going to move pretty quickly through a presentation here on First Mining Gold. I'm going to make a few forward-looking statements here, so you can read that at your leisure. But First Mining, this highlights, you have to forgive where a few of these dots sit because they're not exactly appropriate to the geography. We'll get that fixed. But, you know, a portfolio of projects in the Northwest, this really does show our center of gravity. But our most advanced and largest project is our Springpole Gold project. We'll talk about that, which we are moving through the environmental assessment and permitting process and through the feasibility process starting early next year. But on top of that, we still have significant ownership interest in the Pickle Crow project, which is up around Pickle Lake, obviously a great past producing mine being advanced by our partner, Teco Minerals, and still the largest shareholder of Treasury Metals, which is advancing that Gold Lund Goliath project, which is just off the Trans-Canada Highway outside of Dryden. So, and on top of that, our Cameron project located kind of between Kenora and Rainy River, a million-ounce plus resource there, and we think some really interesting exploration opportunity in and around Cameron. So that gives a bit of a sense for what our footprint is here. And just a little bit about the company, where we have a market cap of a little bit more than 200 million Canadian, 31 million of cash in the bank, and another almost $100 million of shares and project interests in our other partners in the area, you know, a lot of which is focused on Northwestern Ontario. So, you know, I think this is indicative of our commitment to advancing our projects and our commitment to our increasing spend in the region. We'll talk a little bit about our Springpole Gold project. As I said before, this is one of the largest undeveloped gold projects in Canada. We think it's a really unique strategic gold asset, and I think this just gives a bit of a sense of the location. For those of you who don't know where Springpole is, it sits about 100 kilometers east and a little bit north of Red Lake, almost halfway between Red Lake and Pickle Lake, just a few kilometers north of that E1C power line that stretches from Premier Falls up through Slate Falls to Pickle Lake. This is a project that we put out our pre-feasibility study on earlier this year, had reserves of 3.8 million ounces of gold and about 20 million ounces of silver at an average grade of around 1 gram gold and 5 grams silver. And one of the reasons we're so excited about this project when we talk about the strategic nature, this is really one of very few projects in Canada capable of producing in excess of 300,000 ounces a year, which really puts it in a very unique strategic category. I don't need to talk with this audience much about the benefit of being in a tier 1 jurisdiction, and we absolutely think that this is one of the best places in the world, if not the best place in the world, to develop projects. A lot of infrastructure around the Springpole project. And I think one of the real opportunities that we have with Springpole is to develop an infrastructure corridor that is going to bring new infrastructure into what we kind of call the gap between Red Lake and Pickle Lake, where there is enormous mineral potential. There's great forestry potential, and I think a real important potential for us to connect some of our Indigenous communities to the north with all-season access, which I think is going to open up a lot of economic opportunity for the communities to the north, and for us, particularly with the community of Cat Lake. So I think the development of the infrastructure up here can be a real driver for broader economic development in this part of the Northwest. So as we've scoped Springpole right now, it has an 11-year plus mine life. This would be roughly the same size of operation as is being built around Geraldton at the Hard Rock project. And actually, we have some interesting connections with our team, many of whom, particularly Steve Lines, our VP Environment and Community Relations, and all the people on Steve's team really worked to take that Hard Rock project from a scoping study through to construction permits over the prior 6.5 years. But Steve joined us at First Mining about a year ago, and the rest of the team has come to work with us. So a great experienced team that's helping move this project through the environmental assessment and permitting process. So ultimately, why is Springpole that really unique asset? Pretty simply, it's got a 4 million ounce plus resource. It's capable of producing more than 300,000 ounces a year. All-in sustaining costs in our pre-feasibility study would be in the lowest quartile of gold projects worldwide in a tier 1 jurisdiction. And really importantly, with district scale exploration upside. And we'll talk a little bit about that because it's something that, we're quite interested and excited to be getting into, demonstrating that the 5 million ounce equivalent resource at Springpole is really the starting point for this district, which has seen very little exploration when compared to the rest of the Red Lake camp in the other areas up in the Northwest here. Our pre-feasibility study that we put out earlier this year was run at metal prices of $1,600 gold and $20 silver. Showed a very robust, just shy of $1 billion after-tax net present value, $1.5 billion pre-tax NPV, initial capital of $718 million US. And I think importantly there, it shows in this bottom corner, you can see this is a very robust gold project across a range of gold prices. So importantly, for every $100 increase in the gold price above that $1,600, the net present value of the project goes up by about $150 million after tax, $250 million pre-tax. Very robust payback in the project as well, after-tax payback of 2.4 years. So just for context, and I think it's important to understand, this is kind of the size and scale of the Springpole opportunity in the Northwest. This would be, for all intents and purposes, certainly a top 10 gold mine in Canada, and in many years of its production profile, vying for a top 5 or top 3 position in terms of overall gold production. So this is a big and meaningful development project that we are committed to moving forward the right way. But sitting beside the existing resource at Springpole is really a fundamentally unexplored greenstone belt around it. And this is very similar geology to the Red Lake camp, but has maybe seen only a small fraction of the exploration. So we've added to our mineral tenure in the area pretty significantly over the course of the last year, because we believe that there are a number of these structures that are important controllers of gold mineralization, and is going to allow us, again, to demonstrate that this ultimately isn't an 11-year mine life. This is a project that is going to produce for a lot longer as it really opens up this entire district. So we're very excited about that. We've optioned a couple of projects really on sort of on the periphery of our existing or pre-existing mineral tenure. Still need to do some work in terms of permitting to figure out what the exploration plans are going to look like here. But I think some very exciting potential and something that we'd like to ramp up our exposure to and our spend on over the course of the next couple of years here. So, I mean, when we talk about the Springpole project, the one thing anyone who's ever looked at the project knows is that the deposit sits under the north bay of Springpole Lake, and the development plan involves building a couple of cofferdams. Those cofferdams total a little bit less than a kilometer in total length, and are a very important part of the development plan for people to understand. And so, because this project has and the deposits always sat under the bay, we and our predecessor companies have done an enormous amount of work over the last 10 years in terms of compiling environmental baseline work to really fundamentally understand if we and how we can develop this project in an environmentally responsible way with no long-term negative impacts to the environment. The water is obviously the most important resource, not just to us and particularly to our Indigenous communities in the area, but really to all citizens of the province. And it's something that really is table stakes for us to be able to move the project forward. So we've got 10 years of baseline data collection around the aquatic habitat, the fish species, detailed bathymetry, understanding hydrology, hydrogeology, how water moves through the rocks, what the water balance is on the site. An enormous amount of scientific work that's been done, costing us millions and millions of dollars to be able to demonstrate as we go through this environmental assessment process that this project can be permitted and developed in a responsible way. And, one of the things that I think is important to understand is that this is not a unique development process for Springpole. This is very similar to how a number of other projects have been developed in Northern Canada, particularly the open pit mines, the open pit diamond mines in the Northwest Territories, the Meadowbank project in Nunavut, which is owned by Agnico Eagle. You can see here we have these two projects listed, particularly because Steve Lines, our VP of Environment and Community Relations, actually worked at De Beers and permitted the Gahcho Kué mine. And you can see just the scale of complexity of that operation versus relative simplicity of what we're talking about at Springpole. And before that, Steve worked as a regulator advising the Nunavut government in the permitting of Meadowbank. And so, again, good hands-on experience with how these projects of this kind of scale and scope need to be scoped and how they need to move forward. So, on top of that, we've got a great permitting team working with us, particularly from Wood PLC, who have been involved in the environmental assessments for almost every big open pit mine in Ontario in the last 20 years. So we have this great wealth of experience and people with a real understanding of what is important and ultimately, relationships with the regulators, relationships with the technical experts to really make sure that we are crafting the best project that we can. So lots of work to come on the project here, but we're fundamentally moving toward completion of our environmental impact statement, and have a goal of submitting that environmental impact statement in the first quarter of next year as a draft, which would then start the environmental assessment review process. And ultimately, very important that goes through a thorough technical review at the ministries and through the advisors and technical advisors to our Indigenous communities who we're working with. And so ultimately, that's has us targeting environmental assessment approvals end of 2023, early in 2024, and then follow on permitting and ultimately a construction decision to follow on from there. So this really is a project that fits beyond the life of a number of projects being built in Ontario right now. When you think about the timeframes for Magino and Cote and Hard Rock, Springpole is going to be, we hope, permitted and ready for that construction decision just at the time when those other projects are finishing up. And we'll have, I hope, some great teams there ready to move on to the next big economic driver from a little bit further east in Ontario, hopefully up to our area of the Northwest. So that's really what's going on at Springpole. Just touch briefly on, you know, a couple of the other projects that we're involved in the Northwest, and Treasury Metals advancing the Goliath Gold Complex, which is the combined Goliath and Goldland. We think the team there is doing a great job. As you said before, we're still the largest shareholder of Treasury Metals. And think that that's a project where you're going to see gold being produced for 30 years plus. Different scale than Springpole. It's kind of a perfect 100,000 ounce a year producer at the outset, and hopefully some opportunities to bump that up with some of the exploration success that we feel that the team is going to have there. And then Ateco Minerals, our Australian partner, who's already spent $10 million earning into the Pickle Crow project outside of Pickle Lake, but having amazing success, a great, talented technical team with a great track record of finding high-grade gold in an area where, you know, we know there's a lot of gold around Pickle Lake because they mined it for 30 years as what was, I think, still Canada's highest grade underground mine. So we think there's enormous potential there with the existing infrastructure, the great community around Pickle Lake, and the great experience with the community at Mishkogogomang. There's a lot of understanding and capacity in mining, and have been great for us to work with too. So I think with that, the one last thing we'll touch on a little bit, our Cameron Gold Project, which again is located between Kenora and Rainy River. We've consolidated a land package around there, and Cameron is a project a lot of people have forgotten about, but it's been taken to feasibility study a couple of times in the 80s and 90s. There's a 300-meter ramp down into mineralization, and a really interesting resource there that we think bears a lot more exploration work, and particularly in this area that we've recently consolidated around East Cedar Tree, Dubinsky, Dogpaw, which were three separate reasonable grade near surface deposits that have been known about for a long time, but never really looked at from the same basis. So we think there's some great exploration opportunity for us to be able to, once we get the balance of our exploration agreements agreed with our Indigenous communities, and we get our permits lined up, to be able to actually be drilling and demonstrating some growth in that resource there as well, which I think has some really interesting strategic value. So with that, we certainly appreciate everyone joining us today. And we're obviously very excited and, driving a very significant investment in the Northwest, and aim to be driving an even bigger investment in the Northwest as we move forward over the next couple of years. So I appreciate everyone showing up today, and if anyone has any questions, we'd be happy to take some.
Dan, it's a great story, and boy, it's just one really exciting thing after another here today. I don't know if you've had a chance to sit in on anybody else's presentation, but boy, it's just been outstanding. I know that we've got a really good group here. We got 75 people in the room. I'm guessing there's going to be a few questions. So folks, I just want to frame this. We've probably got 3 or 4 minutes. If you do have a question and you want to jump in, I'll unmute everybody. So hopefully that doesn't create chaos here. So we'll undo that. Here we go. So if you do have a question and you want to use your microphone, go ahead. If you want to type in a question, go ahead. And we've probably got 3 or 4 minutes before we need to get ready for the next session. Anybody want to jump in with a question for Dan? Comment, question, or observation? Everybody's waiting for somebody else to go first. There's probably 30 questions. All right. Well, Dan, you did such a great job. You know what? Let's everybody's got things to do. And Dan, thanks for carving out a part of your day to be part of the Mining the Northwest show here through Canadian Trade X. I know that they're really excited, and boy, I've had the opportunity to participate in a couple of these virtual conferences now, and I can tell you that by far this one here is the best attended, and I've seen familiar names all the way through today's presentations that have been part of it. So like everyone that preceded you today, you captured everybody's attention, you got everybody's imagination going, and congratulations on such an amazing series of projects actually, that are going to do great things and change a lot of lives in Northwestern Ontario.
Well, thank you for that, Glenn. And yeah, I hope what comes through here is our commitment to the region. I think we have certainly benefited from great support and great supplier relationships, and we do have a real commitment to making sure that as much as we can, we're getting supplies and drawing as much from local capacity as we can. So that's something that's absolutely going to continue as we move forward. I think what we have here is a great opportunity for the Northwest, and we just hope everyone can help rally behind us. And if anyone has any questions, lots of information on our website, www.firstmininggold.com, or don't hesitate to reach out, info@firstmininggold.com. You can reach us that way as well. So thanks very much to everyone.
Awesome.